Well, when we saw Pope Leo XIV come out and he's wearing the traditional papal attire, and his first mass was in Latin, and he chanted the Gloria and the Creed and all these things, people were really encouraged. They said, oh, we're making a turn. We're going to have some reverence. Maybe even the Novus Ordo will have some reverence, and we can maybe end the liturgy wars and be sensible and have some true dialogue over liturgy. Well, now we have a nuclear interruption. On the screen over my left shoulder is Bishop Michael Martin. He is the new bishop of Charlotte. And I believe he hasn't been a bishop a year yet, but he's made quite the splash. He has, as I understand it, there were about 9 Latin Mass locations, and that's been brought to 4. And it was just announced that they're going to go to 1. They're going to buy a Protestant church outside of town and put everybody who wants the Latin Mass at that Protestant architecture outside town. And that has everybody concerned, upset. If you're on X, Twitter, it is the talk of the town right now. And it went a next level. It went nuclear because a letter, which 2 sources that I trust, I don't know for sure, but they say it's authentic, that Bishop Martin had floated a letter to the priests of the diocese banning and restricting all kinds of things in the Novus Ordo, like ad orientem, the use of Latin whatsoever, altar servers kneeling, women who are active in the liturgy, they can't wear veils. You can't have an altar stand missile, all kinds of things. We're going to go through it today. And so before we get started, I'm going to make a investment suggestion to you. This is being talked about in my Rosary group, chat group. If this keeps going, I think, a lot of y'all are buying Bitcoin, investing in different ways. I really think if this keeps going, you're going to want to invest in felt banners, in felt and polyester vestments like this priest on my right. I mean, check out this Novus Ordo drip right here. Okay, we got the polyester. It's definitely not a fiddleback because Bishop Michael Martin does not want Roman chasubles fiddleback, even though Pope Leo wears them. Even though, we've seen, let me pull in this, even though we've seen, the likes of Pope Benedict XVI giving communion, kneeling on the tongue in a fiddleback chasuble, even though we've seen all that, if this is the new way, we're going to ban everything traditional, I think there's going to be a huge run on the felt material, felt banners, felt vestments, everything's going back 1974. So if you're looking for a good investment strategy, especially if you live in Charlotte, you live in North Carolina, I would consider stocking up on felt for felt banners. It's going to be hot, super hot. Bishop Michael Martin, I don't know much about him. I was having, we had a priest over a week or 2 ago, and I was talking to him about, what are the healthiest dioceses in the United States of America? What are the strong ones? Vocations, growth, building churches. They're not consolidating churches, closing churches, but there's real, you can see the Holy Spirit, through baptisms and marriages. And this priest told me, this was before all this happened, he said that in the top 5 healthiest dioceses in America, he believed Charlotte was one of the most healthy, that they had amazing vocations. I think they have close to 50 men in formation, if I got that right. They have a lot of traditional Latin masses, even the Novus Ordos. They have a lot of reverence, and there's just a good future for the Diocese of Charlotte. And then here I am a couple weeks later, and we're seeing that apparently what was one of the healthiest dioceses in America is now wrought with all kinds of problems. And it's liturgy wars. It's liturgy wars. And I think the reason why people are so fired up, why this has gone nuclear, is we've had 12 years of Pope Francis in which informality, ad hoc liturgies, and a lack of solemnity have been the keynotes. And Catholics, part of being Catholic is the liturgy, the reverence, the architecture, the art, the music. We have a 2,000-year tradition. And to see that thrown out or, put in the garage sale or hung up at the pawn store, no longer valuable, no longer part of our family inheritance, it's confusing for some people, but for a lot of people, it just plain hurts. It's a real kick in the gut. And when we saw Pope Leo the 14th come out, and he's wearing the mozzetta and the stole, and he gives the blessing in Latin, and his first mass is in Latin, and people are receiving communion on the tongue, people are just, oh, it's fresh air. Maybe we're back. Maybe this isn't going to be full restoration of, the 1945 Roman Missal, but maybe we're at a point now where the liturgy wars can just simmer down and we can return to reverence, and maybe we can start having our Latin masses back, and maybe we can just have, I don't know, like a nice Ad Orientem Novus Ordo with the Kyrie in Greek and the Gloria in Latin and the Creed in Latin and the Our Father in Latin, maybe the Roman canon back, the Agnus Dei in Latin. We might even hear Ita Missa Est once again. So there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of optimism. And in America, which is, I would say, next to France, the leader in traditional Catholicism, you got this situation, right? Everyone's kind of excited, we got the punch bowl out, people are getting some punch, and then somebody, dropped a dookie in the punch bowl. And now everybody's thinking, well, wait a second, what's going on? Did Pope Leo, when he was Cardinal Prevost, did he choose this guy? Or did Francis go over him? Or did Cardinal Cupich do it? Or is this a USCCB thing? And I've been thinking, okay, so seems out of line with the aesthetic and the style of Pope Leo so far that we've seen. So maybe the judo move here, maybe the jiu-jitsu move here is that American liberal bishops and cardinals, like Cupich, Tobin, perhaps they're trying to move the hand of Pope Leo. Maybe they think, within the first month, we're just going to go crazy. We're going to bring out the felt banners, right? We got to get polyester maxing all the time. No Ad Orientem, no Latin, and get all the trads and all the conservatives riled up. And then Pope Leo will log on to X and he'll read all this. Oh, these people are crazy. Weird, mean, sede vacantes. I'm going to ban everything. Maybe that's their thought here. I don't know. I don't know what the strategy is. I don't know why Bishop Michael Martin is going to come on the scene after being a bishop for about a year or less and have the most strict and draconian rules and shutdowns in a otherwise thriving diocese with vocations and, from what I've heard, reverent liturgies and growth. And to push it, rub the nose into 1974 radical revisionist liturgical practices. What's going on here? What's for real going on? Before we look at the document, and I'll be relying on Rorate Caeli for that, I just want to come back to this picture here. Here's Pope Ben XVI. He's wearing lace. He's got red shoes. He's got the Roman chasuble on. And we've got a prie-dieu, a kneeler here. We've got a young lady. She's receiving communion on the tongue. We have a paten under her chin, just in case the Pope were to drop our Eucharistic Lord. It's caught. There's a lot of dignity here. But if you read through the stipulations and the restrictions that were suggested, not put in place, as we'll see, that were suggested by by Bishop Michael Martin, this would not be allowed. This would not float according to that letter. And that's problematic, isn't it? That's problematic. Damian Thompson says, sources in Rome say that Cardinal Prevost, who's now Pope Leo XIV, and Pierre, that's Cardinal Pierre, he is the nuncio of the Vatican to America, were sidelined. Francis consulted others, Cardinal Cupich, certainly, and perhaps James Martin. I'd love to know what Pope Leo really thinks about the promotion of the deeply compromised McElroy. So this is a suggestion that perhaps there are more teams, are they factions, that are already trying to shape the pontificate of Pope Leo the 14th, and that this is a concerted effort? We'll find out, because Pope Leo knows about this, my friends. Pope Leo is an American. He is on X. He's been on X for years. People are saying the audio is struggling. 2 mics picking up. Testing. Not working. Sound like a robot. All right, I'm going to kill the stream, and I'm going to have to come back. Stand by. Let me see what I can do here. Before I kill it, let me see if I can get... How is this, guys? How is this audio now? Checking in with you. The audio was low last week. Y'all asked me to crank it up a little bit. Better. Sounds good now. You're good on the straight shot. Sounds fine to me. It's good now. Okay. I'm going to start over. I don't know if y'all heard me or not, or the robotics. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, big controversy. We've gone from the liturgy wars to a nuclear liturgy war. This is Bishop Michael Martin. He is the relatively new bishop of Charlotte, North Carolina. And he has brought the traditional Latin Mass celebration, I've been told, from about 9 locations to 4 to 1 in implementing Traditionis Custodes. And this has fired up a lot of people. But just in the last few hours, there was leaked another document that was a suggested implementation against practices in the Novus Ordo. No Latin being allowed, altar servers not being able to kneel, can't have the missal or the sacramentary on an altar stand. Women participating in the liturgy cannot wear a veil on their head, all kinds of things. We're going to look at that later. And as I mentioned when we were first trying to run this show, if you're looking for an investment opportunity, I know a lot of people are looking at Bitcoin and trying to figure out how they're going to make some money in the future. If all this is moving forward and we're going back to 1974 Novus Ordo kitschy Catholicism liturgy, I suggest investing in felt banners, felt vestments, polyester vestments. These are going to be really hot if all the new bishops in America for the next several years are like Bishop Michael Martin. There's going to be a huge run on felt banners. And we got this priest here. He's got the resurrection chasuble. It's got flowers in the bottom, a pathway, an egg tomb opening up, butterflies coming out. I mean, this is the spirit of what people love in the 1960s. And anything traditional, we're talking about here like Pope Benedict, this is what they don't want. Roman chasuble, lace, red shoes, communion on the tongue, a kneeler, prie-dieu. We've got the server holding a paten under the young lady's chin in case our Eucharistic Lord falls to the ground. This is out. And this is in, right? We've got to go back to 1974. And Bishop Michael Martin is going to lead us there. I also shared this tweet earlier, and it comes from Damian Thompson. Sources in Rome say Prevost and Pierre, that's future Pope Leo, and Cardinal Pierre, who is the Apostolic Nuncio, were sidelined, that Pope Francis consulted others in appointing Bishop Michael Martin, Supich, certainly, and perhaps James Martin. I'd love to know what Pope Leo really thinks about the promotion of the deeply compromised McElroy. And what this is revealing is perhaps there are some factions here. Perhaps there are some divisions. And I'm suggesting maybe, I'm not sure if it's true, that maybe the radical types in the church, like Father James Martin or maybe Cardinal Supich, they saw Pope Leo come out, not like Pope Francis, wearing the mozzetta, wearing the stole, giving the blessing in Latin, his first Mass in Latin, chanting the Kyrie eleison, chanting in Latin the Gloria, the Creed, it's the Our Father. And they said, whoa, what's going on here? And so now maybe they're pushing, less than a month in, for more radical liturgical changes. Everything you've thought of as sort of the spirit of Vatican II or the Novus Ordo or the felt banners or the 29 lay Eucharistic ministers or ministresses, the female, not switching lines. You can't switch over to the priest. He doesn't want you to do that. Not doing the ablutions with water and wine, not having a missal stand, not using Latin. Latin's not allowed. All of this pushing towards the kumbaya, Peter, Paul, and Mary liturgy, the informal, the relaxed, as he refers to it, the banquet model of the Mass, not the holy sacrifice. We're not there to see Christ represented to us on the cross, dying, offering himself as a propitiatory sacrifice to the Father for the remission of sins, but a gathering of love, of community, of a banquet, a mealtime, like a cookout, just getting together, having a brewski with the friends, grilling the hot dogs for the kids. Maybe, the dads and the moms, maybe they get some sirloins, some ribeyes, but we got so we got the hot dogs for the kids over here. We're having a community. We love each other. We're celebrating our usness, and we are the church. That's the vibe. Not, I'm kneeling in the gravel at Golgotha next to the weeping Mother of God as we watch blood drain from the body of Jesus Christ, fully God, fully man. As he says, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Into your hands I commend my spirit. It is consummated. And that the Eucharist is entering into that mystery and also the mystery of the resurrection of Christ, and that he's the Lamb of God, and so his blood is shed, just like the Passover lamb with Moses. And then the people of Israel had to eat the flesh of the Passover lamb, so we eat the flesh of Jesus Christ. And that communion union with Christ gives us sanctifying grace to become saints, to overcome mortal sin, to overcome venial sin, and to become great saints, and to be conformed to the image and likeness of Jesus Christ. That's what I understand the Mass to be. I have been a Protestant. I've been a Protestant minister. I understand the Protestant thinking on the Holy Communion. And it's a communal meal. It's a fellowship meal. It's not a participation in the once-for-all propitiatory sacrifice, atonement of Jesus Christ offered to the Father in the unity of the Holy Spirit. And that's the problem. So I'm going to give you a summary, and then we'll jump into it. This is on X, and this is from Al Carbo. Followed him recently. He's got some interesting takes. And he does a little synopsis of what's going on. So he says, background here, neither the Apostolic Nuncio of the United States, Christophe Pierre, or Prefect for the Dicastery of Bishops, Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo, wanted Martin to be bishop. Pope Francis went over their heads to the urging of Cardinal Blaise Cupich and Father James Martin. That's what he's saying here. Don't know if it's true. Bishop Martin inherited one of the healthiest dioceses in America. With 49 seminarians and a strong core of active young families, the diocese was in the early stages of building a new, larger cathedral. With many of these younger Catholics was an appreciation for reverent liturgy and prayer. And I mentioned earlier, I'll repeat it again, I was speaking with a priest that I know and I trust and I've come to admire. And he's been all over the United States. And I said, which dioceses in America are the most healthy, the best ones? And he named about 5. And one of the dioceses he named, this is all before this came out with Bishop Martin. This is a few weeks ago. He said the Diocese of Charlotte is one of the best dioceses. They have tons of vocations to the priesthood. The young men are solid. They love traditional liturgy. They like the Latin Mass. There's many Latin Masses in the diocese. Even the Novus Ordos are reverent. You see Ad Orientem, a lot of use of Latin. He was praising the Diocese of Charlotte. I thought to myself, that's great. I didn't know Charlotte's doing it so well. Well, here we are a couple of weeks later, and Charlotte and Bishop Martin are now ground zero of a nuclear liturgical war. It's completely not necessary. The idea that you can enforce, well, A, that you should be shutting down traditional Latin masses where there are babies all the way to old people that are in community. Again, it's not just about eliminating the mass. These are actual communities of people who come together with their priest every day, every Sunday, and pray and attend the holy sacrifice of the Mass and receive communion and go to confession and have picnics and friendships. You are dissolving all of that for the sake of ideology. This is a politicization of the liturgy. You would never think, maybe they do think about this, but I would never think, going to the Eastern Catholics, the Melkites, and saying, y'all do the Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom, right? And they say, yeah. Well, Vatican II wants you to have more lay participation in the liturgy. And they're like, well, we don't want to do Vatican II or Eastern Rite, Melkite. Well, but we're going to have that. And so here are the new rules for the Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. How would that be received? And we saw in the original letter about the Latin Mass, he says, are people going to leave the church? That's sad. It's like, would you say that if you went to the Eastern Catholics and said, we're changing your liturgy, and well, they're going to leave the church? Well, that's unfortunate. But we got to be true to these liturgical ideologies that we have. And these are the same people that we've been hearing since 2016 saying, we have to bend over backwards like, what's his name? Neo in the Matrix. Is it Neo? Yeah, it's Neo. We got to bend over backwards to appease the San Francisco James Martin types, or they're going to leave the church. So we got to have blessings. We got to put rainbow flags everywhere, put leopard print everywhere, serve appletinis after Mass. We got to send our priests to the parades, the pride parades. We got to put rainbow flags on the altars, draping down the altars. We got to put meetings at the church. If we don't do all the people are going to leave the church. So they're willing to bend the catechism because we can't lose these people. We got to welcome everybody. And then there's some people who want to just go to the old Mass and they're like, well, if they leave, that's sad. Oh, well, unfortunate. You just got caught in hypocrisy. I use the analogy on Monday on the podcast here about chess. Imagine, I like chess. My grandfather taught me to play chess. Chess has a very strict set of rules. Whether you're playing chess in Russia or Japan or in Brazil or in the United States of America, chess is chess. You can't be like, well, in Russia, the bishops can jump over pieces. Well, because they don't. Bishops can't jump over pieces in the game of chess. But what if in 1970, the World Chess Federation said, well, we're going to change the rules so that pawns can now move like checkers. They can jump over pieces on the board because people like checkers. And we invited the Checkers Committee, the Checkers Federation. We had dialogue with the Checkers Federation. And the Checkers Federation said, you know what? We would feel more welcome at the Chess Federation if you guys would change the pawns to be more like checkers. And the chess people said, yeah, okay. We will change chess, the rules of chess, we'll modify it to be more like checkers, to have more dialogue and ecumenical relationship with the chess people. And then they started implementing that. And they said every tournament from now on is going to have the new rules of chess. And there's a group of people in the world who say, I just want to play chess the old way. I've learned openings. My whole strategy, the way I've done chess for decades, is built on this set of rules. And I'm happy just playing chess in the traditional rules of chess. And then the new chess people are like, well, chess developed over time. There was development in chess. Well, I know, but how it's been received, that's how I play chess. Well, that means if you're not going to play the new chess, you hate chess. You hate chess. No, I don't hate chess. I want to play the old chess. Well, you need to play the new chess. And if you don't play the new chess, we're going to take away your pieces. We're going to take away your boards. We're not going to allow you to come to the chess competitions. In fact, we might even eject you out of the whole World Chess Federation. And that's what we have in our current time. And it's created liturgy wars. And liturgy wars are bad. They're ugly. They're nasty. People on both sides get nasty. People on the trad side get nasty. People on the Novus Ordo side get nasty. It's not good. And so finally, in 2007, we had a world commissioner of the World Federation of Chess. His name was Benedict. He said, you know what? We're going to have both. You can play the new chess rules. You can play the old traditional chess rules. Everybody just get along, right? I'm authorizing everybody to do both. All right? Peace. And things were going pretty good. I don't think there was a lot of, there's some, maybe some nasty people on either side. Say, I don't like that new chess, or old chess sucks. New chess rules. But then a new commissioner, Francis, came along and he issued Traditionis Custodes. And he said, we're going to start weeding out old chess again. It's dangerous, makes people rigid, makes people not love chess. If you truly love chess, you'd only play the new chess rules with the checkers. All right, so moving on here. Here's some examples. After promising not to touch the extraordinary four masses, that's the traditional Latin Mass his diocese last year, Al Carbo says he came crashing down on them this weekend, but not just TLM communities have been targeted. He's also started a full blitzkrieg on all reverence and liturgy. Here's some of his latest demands. He has banned saying the St. Michael prayer at the end of Mass, a practice encouraged even by Pope Francis. And here's from that document that was leaked out. That was not promulgated because so many priests allegedly pushed back on it. He says, after the demissal, there are some churches that have reintroduced the communal recitation of the prayer of St. Michael the Archangel. This prayer is no longer prescribed in the Novus Ordo Missae. While the intention, and by the way, for a lot of people who watch my channel say, why do you always say Novus Ordo? Why do you always say Novus Ordo? It's the new order of the Mass. And here you see it being used, Novus Ordo Missae. So it's not a pejorative. It's just the actual name for it. While the intention to defeat the power of Satan and other evil spirits is commendable, its recitation at the end of Mass can lead to the unfortunate doubt that the Eucharistic liturgy is somehow insufficient to bring about the scattering of evil and the motivation to do good. That's gravely offensive. That's saying that when Pope Leo XIII wrote the St. Michael prayer and asked for it to be said at the end of every low Mass, that somehow Pope Leo XIII was saying the Mass, the liturgy, is not effective for scattering evil. No, he's adding a devotion to fight Satan because we are in an increasingly satanic era. We are in a time where evil is proliferating. So Pope Leo, who had a vision, and you can read all about it in my book, Infiltration, I document the whole thing. You can also get signed copies if you support the channel at patreon.com/Dr. Taylor Marshall. He added it. And there's nothing wrong with saying the St. Michael prayer after Mass. I'm getting all these beeps. I don't know what's going on with these beeps. Y'all still hear me? Hope so. What else? So no St. Michael prayer. That's not good either. He has banned silent masses, even when done with the most normie parishes' early morning Mass. Let me see if I can get this. Quiet masses that are celebrated without music or musical accompaniment is strongly discouraged, even if desired by some of the faithful. The public designation of a Mass as a high or low Mass is not seen as appropriate, even if the designation of such is still found in liturgical documents. The former patterns that are associated with these designations have shifted, leaving those seeing this in a parish bulletin or signage with a false association with the pre-conciliar Mass. So that's bad too. All right. We can't have low Mass, high Mass. It has to always be the happy clappy. All right. Even if it's a daily Mass and there's 20 pious people there, we can't have these quiet Masses. Again, just fighting against tradition. He has also banned kneeling to receive communion, altar rails, crossing yourself and bowing upon receiving communion, and genuflecting to the tabernacle after receiving communion. Again, practices common among even the most normie Catholics. Here's the, let me blow this up here, see if it shows. Yeah. Immediately upon receiving the Eucharist, either the sacred host or the precious blood, there is no need to bow or genuflect to the altar or tabernacle, nor to make the sign of the cross. Similarly, after returning to your seat, the posture for kneeling or sitting for reflection, prayer, and song are both equally advantageous. So you don't have to go back to your pew and kneel and thank Jesus that he's in you right now. You know, you can sit for reflection, prayer, songs, whatever. So here, when it comes to after receiving communion, you can do whatever you want. But in other parts of the liturgy, he's going to tell you exactly what you do have to do. It is normal in our church that when the Blessed Sacrament is exposed and or tabernacle open, that we remain kneeling if possible, so on and so forth. And then here is, since there's no mention in the conciliar documents, the reform of the liturgy, or the current liturgical documents concerning the use of altar rails or kneelers for the distribution of communion, they are not to be employed in the Diocese of Charlotte. It's like, are you aware? Just because it doesn't say that doesn't mean they're not allowed. Or are you going to come along and say, you know, that this is bad? How dare you, Pope Benedict, wear those vestments and have a girl kneeling, receiving communion on the tongue? How dare you? And a lot of times we hear, oh, you think you're smarter than the Pope. Oh, you think you're better than the Pope, etc. But I mean, how is it that pushing policies that are this strict are good? It's going beyond rubrics. It's going to personal preferences, as we'll see. There is no priest banned from praying when putting on vestments. This was shocking. There is no option given in the current liturgical books that prescribes certain vesting or divesting prayers. Prayerful preparation before Mass and Thanksgiving after Mass is to take place in some other way, and if possible, in common with other assisting ministers. So in the traditional Latin Mass, every single vestment that the priest puts on has a specific prayer. And this is to help the priest to prepare himself to celebrate the Holy Sacrifice. And every vestment has a theological symbol to it. And so in order to catechize the priest and to prepare him to celebrate the Mass, he goes through this system of prayers as he puts on the alb, the amice, the stole, the cincture, the maniple, the chasuble. And he's saying here that there are no such prayers, and so you shouldn't be doing them. It's wild. I want to go over to the actual document here. This is put up by Rorate Cheli. And look at some of the things. Here we go. Here we go. This one was interesting here. At some places in our diocese, there tends to be recurring tendency to attempt a reclamation of the rubrics, actions, and sensibilities of the Missal of 1962 or pre-Vatican II liturgical customs and to implement them in the celebration of the Novus Ordo Missae. This can also extend to art, architecture, and other liturgical and paraliturgical celebrations. It's like, wait, you're saying you don't want art and architecture that goes before 1962? And, you know, it's surprising to read all this, but after I read the whole thing, I was talking to my wife, Joy, about it. And I said, you know, he just said the quiet parts out loud. We've known for years that a lot of the bishops in America and elsewhere, they want a lot of Eucharistic ministers. They don't want traditional art. They don't want traditional vestments. They want this guy right here, felt banner on the front of the vestment. They like that. If you're a new priest and you wear this, it's cool. If you wear a fiddleback chasuble, you're a bad boy. They don't want altar rails. They don't want first communicants receiving their first communion at a pray-do, at a kneeler at the front. When they put art in the church, it's not traditional art. You know, the beautiful stuff that you see in old cathedrals. It's modern. It's jagged. It's this guy right here, right? It doesn't elevate. It's pedestrian. So, I mean, he says it right here. You know, we don't want art, architecture, liturgy, paraliturgical celebrations that have the rubrics, actions, and sensibilities of the Missal of 1962. And here's the important thing, guys. We kind of think, oh, this is a war on the TLM. It's a war on the traditional Latin Mass. So when they get rid of the Latin Mass, they'll win. They'll be done. They'll be like, we won the battle. What's shocking to people is this helps us realize that even when they get rid of the Latin Mass, they throw that out. They're not done. They're not satisfied. They want to also come after the art, the architecture, the vestments, when not allowing you to kneel, not allowing you to receive on the tongue. You want to receive from a priest? Nope, you have to receive from a lay Eucharistic minister. The music must be written in 1982 or between the sweet spot for them is music written between 1968. You got to get that Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul, and Mary kind of thing going. And then, you know, maybe up to 1979. That for them is just chef's kiss, like the best music ever. And that's what they want in the liturgy. And they want people from that era singing those songs. And the problem is you've got all these young people who haven't been catechized, haven't been raised in the church, and they have an idea of what Catholicism is, which is a 2,000-year tradition. They come in and they see this, which is very like, you ever been to Disney World and they got that ride, It's a Small World? It's a small world after all. And it kind of has that aesthetic. I don't know what year Small World was made in, but it has that aesthetic. It's kind of like the same aesthetic that you see at Christmas time, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer kind of claymation with the Jack Frost, you know, that kind of art. What is that? Help me understand in the audience. What is that? It's that kind of aesthetic. They have captured that. They have distilled it. They have crystallized it, and they put it on the vestments. And they want to enforce it. They think it's great. They think it's great. You come in and say, "Hey, how about we do some Mozart, Palestrina, Gregorian chant?" And they say, "Oh, Latin? That's bad." As he says, Latin is for haves and have-nots. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. So what we see here is it's just not about the 1962 Mass or the 1945 Mass or the 1500 Mass. It's everything associated with it. As he says, art, architecture, liturgy, paraliturgy. You know? Now here's the part that's kind of crazy. It's the Latin part. Right here. One of the desires expressed by the Second Vatican Council was to embrace the vernacular language in our liturgies as an intelligible vessel through which the faithful may better comprehend the mysteries of faith. In my experience here in the Diocese of Charlotte, I have encountered a frequent and prevalent use of Latin language in our parish liturgies. Latin is used from place to place for various different motivations. Some have employed its use as a safeguard against what I have addressed above, a textual innovation and abuse. However, the faithful's full, conscious, and active participation is hindered wherever Latin is employed. So what he's saying here is Pope Leo XIV's first Mass as Pope was hindering people's full, conscious, and active participation in the Mass. Do we really want to say that? And also, you know, I attend the Latin Mass. I took Latin in college. I took Latin in graduate school. I took Latin in seminary. I taught high school Latin. I'm a Latin dork. The other night I was sitting in my chair and I was going through I have a brick of 1,000 Latin vocab cards. I was going through my Latin vocab cards. I just like Latin. All right. I realize everyone's not going to do that. For example, my wife has never taken a Latin course in her whole life, but she's attended the Latin Mass for 15 years. She knows what's going on. She says the entire Nicene Creed in Latin. My wife, never taken a Latin course in her whole life. She knows every single word, what it means. When we chant Sanctus, 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 she and my kids, my 9-year-old child knows that means holy, holy, holy. It is not difficult. All right. You could spend a weekend of your life and learn most of the vocabulary for the responses in the Latin Mass, and you'd be doing great. By the way, I have a whole course on the Latin Mass. If you'd like to take it, you can go to nsti.com, or you can get started for just $1 and take that course on the Latin Mass. I teach you how to pronounce Latin, say all the responses in Latin. I give you a whole walkthrough of the Latin Mass, the history of the Latin Mass, basically everything you'd want to know about the Latin Mass. You can get that and the other 12 courses and get started for just $1. The link is the third link below me here on YouTube. So Latin is not that big of a barrier. And in fact, I would say it's actually a bridge builder, because when I go to Italy, I know a little bit of Italian, but I don't know enough Italian to go to Mass. So when I go to Italy, if the Mass is in Latin, I'm fully participating. If it's in Italian, I'm probably never going to get there. There's not an impetus for me to learn Italian other than, to take a taxi and order some food. And so Latin is a bridge builder between all nations, all cultures. And, in the old days, you could have a priest who was Brazilian, and you could have a deacon who was a German and a subdeacon who was Vietnamese, and they could celebrate the Mass perfectly together. Same rubric, same words, even if they didn't know one another's language, because they were celebrating in Latin. He says here, most of the faithful do not understand and will never comprehend the Latin language, especially those on the periphery. Okay, to attend Mass in Latin does not mean that you have to comprehend the Latin language. That is not what's going on. Again, my wife and kids comprehend the Latin Mass, but they don't comprehend the Latin language. There's a difference there. Does everybody see the distinction there? You can attend the Latin Mass for 10 years and you can be fluent in the Latin Mass. That doesn't mean you're going to pick up, an ancient Latin text by Virgil and understand it perfectly. And that's how things were in the Catholic Church for hundreds of years. Illiterate people were attending Mass and participating in becoming saints, becoming greater saints than many of us are or ever will be. And they were praying Mass in Latin. And to say, well, they had no idea what was going on, they're just idiots mumbling. That right there, that is pride. To say that Joan of Arc was just mumbling and had no idea what was going on in the Mass is it's sacrilegious. It's blasphemous. And then he says those on the peripheries will never know Latin. You know what? There are places in Brazil and South America and places in Africa where for decades the people had memorized and were chanting the Latin Mass happily. They were good, holy Catholics. So again, this is not true. He says it is fallacious to think that if we employ Latin more frequently, the faithful will get used to it and finally understand it. Bishop, that is entirely my experience. It's my family's experience. It's the experience of hundreds of people I know that go to the Latin Mass who have never taken a Latin course. And they are good, holy people, and they believe in transubstantiation. And they believe in the Trinity, and they believe in the Creed. They believe every word, every jot and tittle in the Mass. So, again, that's just not true. He says, our ancestors heard the Mass in Latin every Sunday, but never understood it. Lie. Not true. Our ancestors heard the Mass, but never understood it. Why then, Your Excellency, was attendance at Sunday Mass in the 97%? And today we have the vernacular and they can all understand it, and attendance at 20%. You think if you put it in the vernacular and everybody can understand it, attendance would go up and Catholicism would be stronger, but it's the opposite. You make it pedestrian, you make it vernacular, and everyone can understand it, but then you poll the people, and most of the people that say they're Catholic in America don't believe in the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. Yeah, but we put it into vernacular. Why don't they? Well, maybe you're also changing the liturgy so that it feels like a banquet, feels like a meal, feels like a cookout. And it's no longer communicating this is Jesus Christ present on the altar. So get on your knees. Their experience was the reason that the council asked the entire church to welcome the use of vernacular liturgies, Sacrosanctum Concilium 32:2. I find it disturbing that so many pastors and celebrants are inclined to force an unknown language on their congregation when the Lord's mission is to engage the lost. The church's teaching on evangelization and missionary efforts cry to us for sensitivity on the part of pastoral leaders to engage people where they are to bring them to Christ. And yet he omits Sacrosanctum Concilium, where it says the Latin language is to be retained in the Mass, in the liturgies. He skips that part. Wild. So no more Latin, not even a Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus. Not even a Ite Missa Est Deo Gratias. Not even a Verbum Domini. Not even Kyrie eleison, which is Greek, not Latin. Not even a Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison. It's for the haves and the have-nots. He talks about the cross-pollination of liturgical rites. He doesn't want anything from the traditional Latin Mass sneaking into, and this is where he talks about the St. Michael prayer. The altar, it has to always face the people, according to him. No ad orientem. Why? Because they want it to be a banquet. They don't want it to be a sacrifice. It's a new theology. It has not been permitted and will not be permitted in the future any public chapel, church, or oratory in the Diocese of Charlotte. He talks about ad orientem there. Moreover, it is important that the altar of sacrifice be free of any visual impairment. Candles, standing crucifixes, missal stands all impede the ability of the faithful to see the Eucharistic elements. These elements were incorporated into the Roman rite when it was offered ad orientem, but they no longer are needed on the altar in the Novus Ordo. So no center crucifix, no candles, everything, no altar stand. You have to have the book flat on the table. Really? I mean, I've seen Novus Ordos where they got candles and crucifix, altar stand. This again seems to be going beyond, right? Beyond. At the very end, he has some liturgical bullet points here. There's a lot of them. I'd encourage you to go to Orate Caeli to read them all. But he says, in new constructions and renovations, altar rails are not permitted. All right, can't do that. The altar, must be freestanding. In terms of candlesticks, they are always to be around the altar. Placing them on the altar will obstruct the vision of the faithful. When a cross be placed near the altar, it may be laid flat on the mensa so that the faithful view is not obstructed. When I go to Mass, the priest holds the host up for people to see. All right? I don't see how having a book stand, a missal stand, or candlesticks, or even a crucifix obstructs this reality. Like if I have a crucifix right here, and I say the consecration and I lift it up, I think y'all are able to see it. It's wild. Flowers and other decorations may never be placed on the altar. Oh, I like this one. Regarding technology, he talks about projection screens. So projection screens can be used in church for the following reasons. Number one, musical lyrics. So you're going to be having jams, music. Instead of having hymnals, you can put it up on the projection screen. Number 2, translation of the readings in the liturgy where it's bilingual. And by the way, bilingual masses, that should not be allowed either, because if people can't understand the Latin, they can't understand the Spanish. 3, common mass responses in the congregation that are bilingual can be on the screens. And then you can also use the projector screens for pre-recorded homily by the bishop or short videos that have been created for the congregation. So I just want y'all to understand this. You can't have ad orientem, you can't have Latin, you can't have altar stands, you can't have candles on the altar or crucifix, but you can have a projection screen. All right, you can have the projector screen, and you can use the projector screen to put videos of the bishop up in the liturgy. Just in case y'all are wondering, if projection screen, because he says earlier some of these things aren't mentioned by the missal, so you can't use them. I don't remember the missal or the germ or the Novus Ordo ever talking about the liturgical placement of projection screens, but apparently they're allowed here. I'm going to take comments and questions here. Let's just go there. Before I do, I want to honor today's sponsor. Let me pull them up real quick. Today's sponsor is the Liver Health Formula, and I'm benefiting from it. I think we need to take better care of our organs. We talk about, not being fat or losing weight or skin health. We need to talk about our organ health. And perhaps one of the most important organs in your body is your liver. And it's one of the reasons why people feel exhausted, weighed down, struggling through the day, low energy. The culprit very well may be your sluggish, overworked liver. And the reality is millions of Americans, 100 million Americans, now suffer from an overworked or sluggish liver, according to the American Liver Foundation. That's 1 in every 3 people. So if you're ready to reclaim your vitality, I highly recommend you're using a liver supplement. And I think the way to go here is Liver Health Formula from our sponsor, Pure Health Research. It's a cutting-edge supplement. Combines 11 powerful, clinically proven natural ingredients to detoxify and rejuvenate your liver at a cellular level so you experience more energy and an optimized metabolism. The company has already helped 2 million Americans, so it's time to join their ranks and feel your best. And they're offering a special discount just to my audience. It's 35% off to get started. Use the discount code Taylor, my first name, Taylor. You'll get 35% off, or you can go to purehealthresearch.com and use discount code Taylor. There's also a QR code on the screen that you can use as well. So take your first step towards better liver health, get that energy, get that vibrancy back, and order yours today at purehealthresearch.com and use discount code Taylor, Taylor. You can also use the link in the episode description or the pinned comment. All right. Also, make sure, I know y'all are trying to, buy up your Bitcoin and make good investments, but, you might want to get some of those felt banners, go to some thrift stores, find some 1974 chasubles investments, because the way things are going, it's going to be hot. Everybody's going to want them. Super chats. Oh, my goodness sakes, we got super chats. Also, just a quick announcement. We do have memberships here on the channel. And if you do a lot of super chats, that might be something you want to do. So on my YouTube channel, you can hit join and get a membership there. And your super chats and comments will be featured. Okay, NPC says, Bishop Michael Martin is a liar, and I say it with video evidence. He said he's going to protect the TLM on video. Liar. I would boycott his diocese. So there is the video where he's talking about going to be slow and when he's going to do it, and he did anticipate and start these moves before he did. I don't know if that makes him a liar or if we should be that cruel or mean to him, but there is a discrepancy there. So next super chat is from Scott. Deus te benedicat, Dr. Taylor Marshall, which is Latin for God bless you, Dr. Marshall. Well done, Scott. See, you too can learn Latin. Again, you can get started over at nsti.com. Use the link in the show notes to get the discount. Start with for $1. Bannon says, and I want to say here, because I already got a little bit of anger and antagonism here. Unfortunately, we're at a nuclear liturgical war at this point. It's gotten crazy, and I hope Pope Leo steps in and says, "No, leave these people alone. Chill. But also, I think we need to be gentlemen. All right, we can't be nasty. We can't be profane. We can't have our mouths full of ugly talk and cursing. This is a war. Think about the great generals, the great warriors, and also how they had a certain dignity and a certain gravitas and a certain respect to them. And I would encourage you to take on that ethos. All right. So don't become nasty. Don't become ghetto. Even though they're trying to push us in a Latin Mass ghetto, right? You need to be saintly. You need to be a gentleman. All right. You need to be reflective. Baron says, Our Lady of Good Success, pray for us. Mary will triumph, but we need to pray and put it in her hands. God loves us. He is good. Our Lord will triumph. Good one, Baron. It's all good. Haven't heard any conservative cardinals speak out on this yet, so I'm staying optimistic. Only concern is how much time will be allowed to pass and how much damage will be done until action taken by Rome. It's a very good question. I have seen Archbishop Corleone for San Francisco speaking out about this. So we'll see. I think probably what's going to happen is all eyes are on Rome. And again, I'm telling you, Pope Leo knows about this. All eyes are on Rome. What is Pope Leo going to do about it? I don't see how Pope Leo waits 12 months to address this. All right. It's escalating. It's a problem. Already, there are many dioceses in America that are 20 have gone bankrupt in the last 10 years. They're struggling financially. They're losing funding, and they're turning to lay people to help fill in those gaps. And if this keeps happening, it makes it hard for the people who are truly devoted and completely on board with the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith to be trusting and to open their wallets, right? They need to see that their agenda, their personal preferences, draconian rules are going to make people nervous and scared, right? And donations will dry up. 1985 Joe says, Dr. Marshall, what advice would you give for talking with well-meaning Novus Ordo Catholics who are conservative but don't really understand why traditional Catholics feel so hurt by this? Yeah, I just think about it like this. Wherever your parish is, you probably have a certain understanding and attachment to how Mass is said. And then let's just say that someone came in and said, we're not doing it that way anymore, and put the icing on the cake, it's bad. And you're going to say to yourself, well, I've been going to this church for 15 years and praying and going to Mass here. You're saying that you're taking away and what we've done is bad. How would you feel? That's how they feel. That's how we feel. And that's also how people felt in 1970 when they changed it. MPC says, what's up with Return of Tradition? This guy's so negative. His newest video is Pope Leo appoints ultra heretic. Is he overly negative or spot on? I don't know. I haven't seen the video. He's definitely made videos that I have found helpful. So I'll have to check that one out. Not sure. Burns says, felt futures are booming on this news. I know. Before I came on live, I went long. I bought a lot of felt futures. I think felt's going to be big in this new 1970s liturgical climate. Orwell's Goon says if his comments are true, it's directly contravenes Sacrosanctum Concilium, even though he says he's upholding the Constitution. That is kind of ironic, isn't it? Don De Leon says, imagine Pope Leo XIV celebrating the Mass at Chartres Cathedral at the end of the pilgrimage. Wouldn't that be the statement to end all statements? Yeah, I said that on Monday. More important than a motu proprio, more important than a constitution or document would simply be for Pope Leo on a Thursday morning to say a traditional Latin Mass. And everyone would freak out. It'd be the biggest news. And he'd be like, I said the Latin Mass. Like, yeah, but you said the Latin Mass. I said the Latin Mass. It's great. Latin Mass is great. Yeah, but it's the Latin Mass. Can we celebrate the Latin Mass? Yeah, you can celebrate the Latin Mass. I celebrate the Latin Mass. You can celebrate the Latin Mass. The Latin Mass has been part of our tradition for hundreds of years. It's beautiful. It's great. I like it. You can like it. That right there would depoliticize everything. That would create a tidal wave of support for the traditional liturgy. That would be the most important thing. And of course, if Pope Leo said it at the end of the Chartres pilgrimage, which I've been on, that right there would be huge. Oscar says, bring back the sedia gestatoria. That's the chair that they carry the Pope on. It's kind of cool. I don't know. I like Pope Mobile too. Pope Mobile is kind of the modern version. But Baron has another super chat. Offer up your sufferings as reparation to the Sacred Heart of Jesus for all Eucharistic abuse. Your mother told you to do this at Fatima. Good advice, Baron. Anthony Plash, what are your thoughts on the double effect principle on issues like abortion and the use of contraception? I'm curious. Oh, I don't want to go into that too much. I do talk about it over at the New St. Thomas Institute. If you want to take courses and learn about double effect, Catholic philosophy, Thomas Aquinas, etc., I do explain it all there. You can get your certificate in Catholic philosophy and Thomistic studies at New St. Thomas Institute. You can go to nsti.com to learn more or get started using the link in the show notes for $1. Quickly, I will just say that when you're talking about intrinsic evils, abortion and contraception are both intrinsic evils. You cannot justify intrinsic evils in that way. So that's a short answer. It would probably take me about 20 minutes to break down all the distinctions. Sen says, I forgot to thank you for praying the Hail Mary. Sen, I remember we prayed a Hail Mary for you and your intentions on Monday. I'm glad you're back, and thank you for saying thank you. You're welcome. Baron's back. What are the Novus Ordo rubrics, Bishop? May we see them? Yeah, they are. They're in it's called the Germ, the General Instruction for the Roman Missal. They exist. And then a super chat here from Philip. Awesome. All right, friends. Well, make sure you're praying your rosary every day. Find a tradition. If you haven't been to a traditional Latin Mass, go check one out. You're going to be a little bit confused. You're not going to quite know what's going on. I would encourage you, don't bring a missal, don't bring a book, don't bring a guide. Just be there. Kneel down, put your hands together like this, and pray. I would recommend pray with your eyes open. Watch what's going on. Participate. Are you fully going to understand every gesture, every word, every bit of Latin? No. But is there graces? Is there the reality of Jesus? Is the Trinity there? Are all the angels there? The saints are there, right? The divine action unfolding on the altar, it's all there. Just go in and take it in. And it's okay. You know, I've been going to the Latin Mass for 15 years. And, you know, some people say, oh, I can't even fully understand transubstantiation. I've read, I think, almost everything Thomas Aquinas has ever taught on transubstantiation. Been going to Latin Mass, reading about the Eucharist. I don't fully understand transubstantiation. It's a mystery. I understand the terms. I understand generally the metaphysics. I understand the distinctions, substance and accidents and all that. But there is such a profundity there. There's such a mystery there. I don't think we will ever fully comprehend the mystery of the Trinity, and perhaps never fully comprehend the mystery of transubstantiation. It's a deep mystery. We have the proper words. We have the proper protocols. We have the proper language to define what is heresy and what is not heresy. But that doesn't mean that we fully comprehend it in the way that God fully comprehends it. And that's okay. We participate. We're not God. We participate in the divine life that he shares with us. That's the beauty of Catholicism. Jesus Christ assumed the human nature. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. I'll never fully comprehend what that means, but I believe it. And I want you to believe it. So, you know, the idea that you have to go to Mass or liturgy and fully comprehend everything going on, it's not, I don't know, I think that's kind of unfair. I think you can go to Mass your entire life and you're never going to fully comprehend. You're never going to fully comprehend every Bible verse. You're never going to fully comprehend the Nicene Creed. You can know the Nicene Creed, you know it's heresy and not heresy, but to fully go to the depths of what those dogmas mean, those doctrines mean, even the Blessed Virgin Mary, who had no sin, was pondering these things continually in her heart. So I think it's part of being humble. I think it's also a relief that just because you might think, well, I don't fully comprehend this, I'm not a good Catholic, I'm not a good Christian. That's not true either. Just be humble and receive what you can receive. All right. And receive, I encourage you to receive on the tongue, not in your hands. Don't take. Adam and Eve took. Receive. Receive like a child. All right. Pray your rosary every day. Got to pray your rosary. Rosary is the weapon. Rattle those beads. Pray your rosary every day. Are you not on the team? And remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. So go out there and be salty and pray. We're in a battle. Pray. Be humble. Be a gentleman. Be a lady. And until next time, God bless. Godspeed. Be salty.